Hello, and thank you for watching this video. This is just a little talk explaining what's going to be happening over the next few days. I actually went to the Rezzed sort of event that was going on, and the ArenaNet actually were doing a sort of demo for Heart of Thorns. And so there was a 3-day event going on: the Thursday, the Friday, and the Saturday. The Saturday they sort of explained about their new World versus World Borderland. And so what you're going to be seeing in the background here is some footage and some demo footage from Heart of Thorns. And over the next sort of day or so, I'm going to upload a fair few interviews because I got quite lucky. I actually was in the queue. There was a bit of a fairly long queue for the demo at Rezzed. And I bumped into Josh, who the host of the Ready Up series, and I said, "Look, is there a chance to do a sort of interview with you, so you guys on my channel, you could hear from these sort of the ArenaNet devs?" And gave me introduced me to the PR guy there, Andy, who, as I said, really helped me out and really sorted me out some terrific interviews. So I actually managed to speak to several of the developers that I'm going to be putting up on YouTube in the next few days. I spoke to Gail Gray, I spoke to Jebro, and we talked a bit about sort of obviously what it's going to be like from a shoutcaster point of view, doing the new Stronghold map. We talked about Heart of Thorns, and so I'm hoping that you'll be able to enjoy some of these interviews that will happen over the next few days. Again, just a really big thank you to sort of the people at ArenaNet, and particularly Andy, who was the PR guy for NCSoft, and he's helped me out a lot and really got me some some really great interviews. Without him, obviously, none of these interviews really would have happened. So thank you very much, guys, at ArenaNet. You really sort of made everybody feel welcome. It was a really good atmosphere, even though the majority of the morning the internet was down at the venue. Nothing ArenaNet could do about it. But they were doing trivia giveaways, and so I saw a girl win sort of a Char plushie, and she was cradling it like a little baby because she was so happy. They were giving away a toaster that had that toasted the Heart of Thorns logo into the toast, which is pretty cool. We got some sort of pins that you can see in the background. And generally, it was a really nice event, and I actually able to play Heart of Thorns, play on the Revenant. And so, what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk a little bit about what actually sort of I learned from the Heart of Thorns demo. So, I played a little bit of the personal story at the beginning. One thing that really struck me, obviously, in the original Guild Wars 2, when they launched it, the personal story was very much split up, where when you come into a cutscene, it splits off and you have sort of your character left and then somebody else on the right hand side, and they're talking side by side. You can understand why they've done that, because they actually had so many different branches of story. To actually do different cutscenes for every single one would have been tremendously time consuming. However, with this new with Heart of Thorns, man, the actual sort of voice acting is amazing. Sort of your character's speaking, and you can see the little speech bubble above your character's head, and so you feel speaking, and you actually properly feel like the commander, because you are really ordering these guys about at the beginning. You're telling the troops what to do, and you feel so much more empowered as you're sort of going through this personal story. And obviously there's lots of conflict going on because of the Sylvari. But generally, it was a really good introduction to Heart of Thorns. I felt that the graphics, the story, and the general characters' development seems to be a lot more intensive compared to obviously the Living World story. And we didn't actually have our character being voiced. Obviously, it takes to get your characters voiced. That's going to be 10 voice actors brought in, because obviously you've got human, male and female, and then Char, Sylvari, Norn, and Azura. So it would have been a lot to just for every Living Story episode to have all that voice acted. But it's good to see it back again. And I think with the way that their ArenaNet are going to be doing things, and have your actual character talking in the general map, or in the instances, no real sort of side by side cutscenes, it's going to make the experience a lot more sort of immersive. So let's talk about as well. I didn't manage to play the PvP map. I wasn't there for when the World versus World Borderland was being released, so that I can't really talk about. But what I am going to talk about is the Revenant. Now the Revenant, I am going to be doing a little feature a little bit later on in the next week or so, where I'm going to be examining each class and their role in Guild Wars 2 currently. And the Revenant I'll include sort of in there as well. But the Revenant, I found it very interesting. It is a little bit different. It's a heavy class, so obviously we compare that to the Guardian and the Warrior. But the ability to switch to, sort of legends, to go from the current ones we had were Jalis and Malinx. And to switch between the two, you have the energy management system, where obviously that's bringing back sort of aspects of Guild Wars 1. And one thing that really struck out for me was the actual animations of the actual sort of skills, and they just felt so much more detailed. You could really feel sort of you have when excuse me, when you use one of the skills, I think it's skill 5 on the hammer, and you see these two hammers come down on this AoE sort of in this AoE area that you've created. Man, that the actual animation is really impressive, and sort of you feel a lot more into the game, and I think that's going to really help for this sort of when they go into the first person mode. But as I said, we didn't really have much chance to sort of examine the Revenant completely. It's still actually not finished as a sort of profession. They're still tweaking it, and there were a few little tweaks, like for example the mastery track. It wasn't available, it wasn't in the hero tab. You actually had to click on the skill bar at the bottom of the screen to actually bring up that tab before you could actually, sort of put a skill point. The gliding, I felt, was pretty decent. It could do with a little bit more sort of when you jump off. You just need to, I think, activating it a little bit quicker. But I think these are little tweaks that when the actual Heart of Thorns launches, it will actually be a lot more beneficial and a lot more sort of polished. And I think the gliding, it's a new system for them, but it feels so cool when you're jumping off to fight the Wyvern, which is the main boss that we had to fight, and you're sort of gliding down, and it does feel like, really cool. It would be pretty cool if they had a sort of a trait in the mastery track where you could actually fire while in the gliding mode. Sort of if you've got like a ranged weapon, like a rifle or something, like a longbow, imagine gliding in and then sort of firing as you're coming down. That would be pretty cool. But again, I felt that the actual Heart of Thorns demo showed a lot of promise, a lot of interesting aspects. The adventure modes look definitely, sort of a different type of quest. Sort of, it's an event, but it's all personal, so it doesn't matter if other people are doing it in the game or in the map. It's actually personal to you. It's like a little mini instance for you. But yeah, generally it's not really a mini instance because you still see players going around, but it's like a heart quest basically, and so that sort of thing was quite good. The events are all again pretty well designed that we actually had a chance to play in, and the map and the graphics are all very impressive and a little bit of a step up from what was currently in Guild Wars 2. But so generally, there were a few, majority all positive feedback, and I really am going to look forward to playing Heart of Thorns when it comes out. It has sort of, I think for a lot of people, it's going to re-energize them and rethink, okay, Guild Wars 2, let's come back and play this. The expansion's coming out. There's so much sort of we can do and play in Guild Wars 2 with this new expansion. And again, I would just like to thank everybody at ArenaNet for, taking the time to speak with me. Nobody all the devs were really approachable. They were happy to chat with with you, and it was a really nice sort of event basically. And I really think that sort of the future looks good. But as you see, I'm going to include some stuff as well. I mean, thank God I went on the Friday, because on the Saturday it was manic. There's a video that Jebro put up on his Twitter where the queue was going on for like sort of, I mean, they would have been a 3-hour wait for this demo. I mean, because the internet went down, I did suffer. It was like a 2.5-hour wait to play the demo. But obviously, as we were queuing up, each person that gets on this demo, I think there were 16 computers that they had there, and it was a 40-minute demo. So you are going to be waiting a substantial amount of time, but when you actually get the chance to play it, you just really want to you actually want to play more. and I was disappointed that there wasn't more to play really, and that's sort of a feeling that you really want to have with Heart of Thorns. And I'm hoping that, sort of, as I said, there are a few things that I do hope that, I hope it's not completable in a day, because it's a level 80 area, and it's going to be a level 80 expansion. Obviously, many people have level 80 characters. Can they go through and do it all in a day if they really wanted to? I'm hoping not, because that sort of defeats the whole point of an expansion. It's supposed to take time. And one of the things I thought might be cool is if they have restrictions on getting to certain areas for until you actually master certain sort of points. If you think back to, for those of you that played Guild Wars 1, when you were in the Nightfall expansion, you couldn't actually get into certain areas without completing the personal story. And I think that's going to be sort of the way I could see it working in Heart of Thorns is you can't progress until you actually develop a certain sort of certain ranking in a certain mastery level, and that way you actually have to play the game and take the time to play the game, and it's going to take you a little bit longer to play through. But obviously, when you finally achieve that mastery ranking, then you'll be able to progress in the personal story. So there are ways in which they can make the actual story mode longer. I am hoping as well that they've learned the lessons from Guild Wars to the launch, and also, so when I say the launch, I'm talking about obviously the Zaitan sort of issues and the fight that they have there. But generally, the story that they developed in Guild Wars 2's Living World, I think could definitely really pay off the lessons that they learned from that. And Heart of Thorns, I imagine, is going to be a really, really good story, and it's going to be enjoyable. But that was basically a little bit about the PvE side. With regards to Stronghold and the PvP side, I did a lot of interviews with you, so I'm not really going to talk about that much, because there is good interviews with a lot of the devs out there, and obviously some of the other guys in sort of the players in GW2. And I'm hoping that you enjoy these interviews. It just gives you a little bit of sort of a different take on it. But thank you very much for watching my video. I'm hoping that these will give you a little bit of knowledge about the Heart of Thorns and sort of what the expansion is going to be bringing. And thanks very much for watching. Feel free to leave any comments. As always, I try and respond to them if I can. And I always appreciate sort of feedback. So thanks very much, guys. Catch you on the next video.